previously on the EXT Era, it was a little bit disappointing, and I did diagnose the issue as being too slow on the Rebound department. So there's no official repair manual out there, and they do not want you to touch these at home, but let's change that. Check out the technology and all the struggles trying to fix this without the repair manual. Basically, you move the Rebound adjuster and it feels like it does nothing. So a fellow commenter, it's about the most information I can give you, said, hey, the Rebound adjuster acts like a high-speed Rebound adjuster, so you can't feel it in the parking lot. He said there's 5 total Rebound tunes. They ship from Italy with number 2, which is very slow Rebound, and I do believe that's what's wrong with this fork. So basically, we're going to start out with a super clean fork, cross my fingers, and hope nothing breaks. There is a tiny bit of information on the internet about this fork. They do allow you to service the lower legs. So opening it up was pretty simple. We pull the Rebound adjuster off just like a RockShox. And then we need some kind of pass-through device here. A 19mm holds onto the nut on the bottom, and then we have a 4mm to crack these bolts loose. They are Loctited on, so it was pretty darn tight. Now everything else in this fork internally is very under the books, including the air spring, but we're going to do a full tear down, so let's jump in. So I removed both Schrader valves just to keep things safe, because suspension is very dangerous to work on and exceptionally dangerous without a repair manual. Starting off on the damper, it's a pretty conventional high-speed, low-speed compression knob, so we got to clamp onto the knob, the low-speed part itself, to loosen up the bolt to ensure nothing gets stripped, damaged inside of it, because suspension is incredibly hard and delicate to work on. The high-speed compression adjuster is very simple. So that was fail number 1, so press like for gouging up my damper cartridge in the first 5 minutes. After an extensive amount of research on the internet, it looks like we got a whole bunch of pin spanners to work on this, so sometimes you can bodge in the wrong pin spanner. So at this point, I'm not sure if it's a compression cartridge or it's using the stanchion itself. So this is a Fox Float X2 pin spanner to pull out the high-speed compression on a Fox Float X2, and it fits inside of the holes, so I'm unthreading something, so I just kept on sending it. After loosening up something on the compression side, I moved down to the Rebound side, so they want you to have another pin spanner here, but I used my snap-on snap ring pliers and they fit right in the channel. So basically the compression cartridge is halfway out of the fork, and all I want to do is get to the Rebound cartridge, but unfortunately you can't pull the Rebound side out, so this means it is a cartridge, so we have to somehow loosen this top cap up. So they make this top cap incredibly hard to service, and there's a ton of Loctite on it, so I went to town with the Nipex pliers, and do not do this. But I'm going to keep on trying. So it's a 34mm top cap tool, so the only 34mm socket I have is an axle socket that's super heavy duty for taking off wheel bearings on cars. So I grinded it off, made it flat, tried it, and it's not going to work, so you got to know when to stop. Couple days later, Amazon shopping cart, 34mm BMW bullshit specialty tool. This should do the job. So we're going to get it hot with the torch, because they like to use a lot of Loctite on this fork, and then put the spanner on, and she popped right out. So it's definitely a cartridge assembly compression damper on the fork. Doesn't use the stanchion itself. Basically, Fox is copying the Italian stuff. That's what Fox does best. This looks vaguely similar to the Fox new dampers, except for the Rebound on the bottom. The Rebound piston is substantially thicker, bigger, whatever. So let's get inside of there. So we're always going to start off with the torch to make sure we crack any Loctite that was previously on there. So my number 1 goal inside of this fork is to change the Rebound valving. So we have a very sophisticated Rebound stack here, and I'm just kind of like prying up on it to see how stiff it is, because I don't have a shock dyno. So taking the Rebound piston apart was super simple. It is very sophisticated and hard to work on, but it's not super difficult. RockShox stuff's actually a little bit harder. Here's the shim stacks on the Rebound side of the EXT Era. So they're standard 6mm inner diameter shims. So it's unconventional because it goes 21, 17, 20. So it's a non-tapered shim stack with that weird 17mm shim. So basically, bouncing back to the motorcycle Bible book, Paul Thede always talks about using tapered shim stacks because they're the best. So I'm just going to pull that 17mm shim out and return this to a normal tapered stack, and we'll see how it goes. The rebound is the main problem on this fork, but there's no way I'm going to bypass the compression assembly on this fork. So it looks oddly similar to the new Grip X and Grip X2 dampers. I wonder if Fox is just copying the Italians, because that's what Fox does best. So this has the stiffest spring I have ever seen come out of any mountain bike fork. It has a very sophisticated internal floating piston on the spring. Uses moto style seals on the internal floating piston, 2 seals to be exact. So it does have this like cone shaped thing on the back of the main piston that looks like an alien saucer, and it looks oddly similar to the WP DVO fork I took apart. The way the high speed compression is made is this high speed compression coupler, and it is oddly similar to the Fox. So what happens is when you turn the high speed compression adjuster, you're preloading this little cone right here onto the main shim stack. So this is why the damping is so good out of Italian stuff, because they're preloading shim stacks. They're not using orifices like RockShox. I'm going to call it like I see it, and I may be wrong, but I'm going to say Fox is basically a knockoff EXT, because this main piston looks virtually identical to the new Grip X damper. The most interesting thing in the compression assembly is this alien saucer. It's a cone valve shaped thing that goes on the back of the main piston, and I can tell you from the DVO WP collaboration fork, you want cones inside of your compression assembly. So I'm not going to go any further than this because there's no real reason to, but we can see how viciously stiff this spring is, and the way the high speed compression coupler, the preloader, works is very similar to Fox. Here's the shim stack order inside of the compression assembly. So we're going to focus on the outer diameter because it's more or less the theme or the character of the compression. So it goes 22, 20, 16, 14, 12, 12, 10. And then we have the alien saucer and then 3 more shims. So I really do like the compression valving from the look of it here. It's a nice tapered stack, but I am going to take out one 16mm shim because I want the rebound to be stupidly fast to match that E-Storia. A quick dig on the internet tells me this fork takes 2.5 weight oil inside of the damper, so this is a very good thing because they're using the valving to create the damping curve. So I ordered this on Amazon because the package looked pretty cool. Now, without any type of repair manual and knowing this has a bleeder valve on it, I just went ahead and bled it like a Fox fork, which is a very good thing because that means it's super easy to bleed. Once everything is basically bled on the bottom rebound piston assembly, we can start stuffing in the compression assembly, but there's one catch. On the compression assembly, there is split seals, so I had to start over and kind of redraw the plan. So these split seals, you have to squeeze them and make sure they're in place when they go inside of the cartridge. So I removed the top cap and then stuffed this in with the top cap on there, and everything went pretty smooth. The Fox Float X2 pin spanner does fit in there, not perfectly, but it does the job. So just in case you don't have one of those pin spanners, you can just use some snap rings and avoid buying expensive tools that you can't even buy. Let's jump inside of the airspring assembly. So we have the same pin spanner needed on the airspring side to release the lower piston. You can use snap ring pliers, and this one came out pretty darn simple. So let's take a look at the main airspring piston. So it's very, very unique. Mostly for the fact we have an integrated coil spring on the bottom of the airspring. It's pretty heavy, so I'm guessing this is guessing, keyword, tuned mass damper, kind of adding mass to the fork to make it feel more confident. So this piece right here is not a travel reducer, so I put it back together and it was topping out. That's because the lower piston on the air spring assembly has a little button to equalize the negative chamber. So many hours of struggling later, I'm basically tightening the last nut on this fork and I snapped the damper shaft off. So I'll let you know how this fork, if it does get fixed, later on.